have your, oh, do you remember the lymphoid?
Which one?
Nodule?
Lymphoid, yeah.
The
What do you call it?
patch?
Hair patches, yeah. And then what are these? What's the red one? Yeah, so it's basically this one. Okay? This, you can use this. So this is your...
Lacteal.
That's a green one.
Oh.
Yeah, so you have blood supply as well as blood drainage. And then basically the nutrients that you're absorbing that are water soluble would actually go through your blood vessels. And those that are fat soluble will go to your lacteals, which is a lymphatic vessel. Okay? And then those will eventually drain through. And, refer to that chapter for that. Excuse me. So we're done with that one. Okay? And then, so what was the primary purpose for the villi again?
Increase
Increase the surface area. Okay? See how it's very heavily vascularized because you would want to make the most out of the absorptive surface area. So you need to have a good blood supply to allow for the transfer of the nutrients there.
There you go.
Yeah. And then we also take note of, remember the serosa, right? And then you also have blood vessels here. And see the orientation of these muscles. This is going to be the longitudinal, which is the outermost. And then you have the circular, right? Does that make sense? That's why you see when the cross-section, it appears that way. Okay? And then again, you have the vascular as well as the lymphatic and the nerve supply here. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
What is this blue part?
Oh, remember this was the... well, these represent the other portions, like the lower portions, and some mucus cells there as well. Okay? And then, now the liver, huge liver. So remember, this is how it's oriented. Okay? Do you remember this blood vessel? IVC, very good. Inferior vena cava. And again, so this is how you orient yourself. This is going to be the right lobe and the left lobe. And we said that those two can be easily distinguished by the size, right? The right one is way larger, okay? And then, so it's divided by the, what ligament?
The ligamentum venosus.
Well, because it has two ligaments that separate it. One separates the
The falciform ligament.
Yeah, falciform ligament. Okay.
Falciform
Yeah.
ligament.
Falciform ligament. And then here, remember the green one here, don't confuse this with the lymphatic drainage. Okay, this is the right hepatic duct and the left hepatic duct. Now, together, okay, see how when they meet up, that's going to be your common hepatic duct, okay? So anytime you have, remember the iliac and the common iliac, and then you have, so you usually, okay, but here you have the right hepatic duct and then the left hepatic duct. They join to form the common hepatic duct. This one is going to be the hepatic artery, which should make sense because usually arteries are colored red. Remember, with the exception of the pulmonary vessels, those are the only ones that are switched. And this huge one is known as the, remember what we were talking about in lecture? The hepatic portal vein, which serves as a portal for your, because usually blood vessels do what? They either carry oxygen-rich blood or oxygen-poor blood, right? But this is a special one. That's why, I call it a portal. So it's easy also to remember, right? The hepatic portal vein, because it kind of defies the other functions of blood vessels. The main purpose of this is to bring the nutrients that you just gathered from the small intestines from here, okay? See these blood vessels? Okay? So the main purpose of this is to bring blood to the liver, because remember what we talked about the liver, the many functions of the liver, one of which is to process the nutrients so that, let's say you take in more sugar than you needed, you're going to store that for later use, right? So So you're going to store it up as glycogen, and if you need to store more, then you're going to store it as fats, and the liver does all of that. So what I usually tell my students is, I like to think of the hepatic artery as the blood vessel that delivers the blood to the liver, okay? And it has its, you know when you go to school you have like a lunch bag? So it's kind of like the lunch bag carrier, okay? The portal vein, the hepatic portal vein, I like to think of it as carrying the liver's homework. So it needs to do its work, right? So, and it's getting delivered by the hepatic portal vein. Does that make sense?
The big one on top is the vein, right?
This one,
And
the
then
hepatic
little
portal vein. That's why it
the
doesn't
organ.
look blue or red. It represents like an entirely different function. Okay, it carries the nutrient-rich blood that has been absorbed from your intestines. Okay, does that make sense? So as your as the blood flows from the intestinal network all the way to here, you're going to spread it out. And when you take a look at the liver, actually I'll show you here. Remember this? That's where they're going to process it. See that portal area? See that? And then it's going to distribute it to these cells, and they're going to start processing all of those. Now, at some point, you're going to have to drain blood from the liver, regardless of where it came from. Whether it came from the hepatic portal vein or the hepatic artery, you're going to have to drain the blood, right? And whose assignment is to drain the blood, typically? Which blood vessel? The veins, right? So simply call the hepatic veins, okay? So your hepatic veins, your right and left hepatic veins will basically, and if you notice, see that? They will drain directly into the inferior vena cava. This is your right hepatic vein and this is your left hepatic vein, and they both drain directly into the IVC. So as long as your blood is coming from the liver, you're going to get drained by the hepatic veins. Okay? So don't confuse the hepatic portal vein with your hepatic veins. Does that make sense? Okay? Any questions? Okay. Now, another thing with your, remember the common hepatic duct? This probably has. So, yeah, I'll just show you this one. So you have the right and the left hepatic duct forming the common hepatic duct, and then it's going to deliver the bile through the cystic duct into the gallbladder, where it basically stores and concentrates the bile. And then, should you need to release bile through, what's the hole here?
The ampulla.
Ampulla of Vater. Yeah, you'd have to go through. So you're going to leave the gallbladder, and then you're going to go through the cystic duct, and then you're going to go into the common bile duct. So what formed the common bile duct? It's basically a union of the common hepatic duct and the cystic duct. Okay? So those two, when they start to meet, when they intersect, now sometimes you have two streets that's named, let's say, First Street and then Second Street, and then when they join, it's another street, right? So a whole new Monterey. So that's basically the common hepatic duct plus the cystic duct equals common bile duct, and that's the one that exits into your
Darth Vader.
ampulla of Vader. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah? And then you remember this purple-looking one?
That's
The portal.
Hepatic portal.
so when the bile comes out from liver through the right and left
Duct.
they go
Hepatic
into
ducts.
the gallbladder first, they don't go directly out. So there's a system.
Well, see, you
going
remember
through.
how I told you usually the liver would do this in his downtime?
So
Right?
it
So
stores in the
normally,
downtime.
yeah,
Okay.
normally, because when the portal vein starts to deliver the nutrient-rich blood, it's going to be very busy. So its main priority is to process those nutrients and not to make bile. So it can release a little bit of bile, but majority would be coming from
my
A
question is
gallbladder.
that, so it's a two-way street in a way. In a single vein, it's that duct, the cystic duct. It's
Yeah,
a
the
two-way street,
the
basically.
cystic
So
duct will
takes
receive,
in also and then
it
takes
will
out
leak
of
through
it.
there. Yeah, that's right.
And one
Okay.
final, so the portal vein, just want to clarify.
Hepatic portal
The
vein.
hepatic portal vein drains into the.
It carries blood. I don't want you to think drain. Just
Okay.
I want you to think it carries blood from the intestinal blood vessels into the liver because it's carrying its homework.
Okay.
Okay, for the liver to work on.
Which one's the backpack again?
It's more like a messenger bag. No, I'm just kidding. But does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's see. Do you have any other questions? Do you think you're ready to face the cadaver and try to look at the different